Space tastes like copper and adrenaline when a royal star yacht groans in pain. My name's Reese, and my plasma spanner just wedged inside an alien conduit tighter than a vacuum seal, locking me face to face with the gorgeous prince whose eyes can read my every secret desire. Outside these quivering walls, a rogue nebula is ready to swallow us whole. Inside, one wrong breath could ignite the core, and my heart. The conduit pulsed once, a low biological thrum that shook through the reinforced biosteel walls of the maintenance chamber. Reese cursed quietly under his breath, knuckles white as he twisted his tool again. It didn't budge. A low sigh beside him. "That doesn't sound encouraging," Rillian muttered, voice smooth like midnight rain but tight with worry. "Wasn't meant to be," Reese replied. "Your ship's anatomy is uncooperative." The prince arched one violet brow. "It's not a ship. It's a living entity engineered over centuries by my ancestors. The devourer breathes, thinks, and bleeds." Reese shot him a sideways glance. Right now, it's choking. Their proximity was absurd. The conduit chamber was narrow, a claustrophobic tunnel of soft sinew and glowing membranes. Reese knelt half-folded over the access point, elbow deep in the ventral flux regulator. Rillian, refusing to wait back in the control chamber, had followed him in. Now they were pressed hip to thigh, breath mingling in the close, electric air. The spanner buzzed, then died in his hand. Reese exhaled. "It's jammed. Fully lodged. Won't budge an inch. Can you reverse the charge?" "No. If I do, the regulator might collapse inward." And judging by the alarm system yelling in Zinary at me, he gestured to the faint orange lights strobing around them. "We're one wrong move from core instability." Silence. Then Rillian's voice softened. "So we're stuck?" "Yep." Reese ran a hand through his hair. "And the only way out is to wait for the thermal cycle to reset and soften the conduit walls." "How long?" Reese gave a non-committal shrug. "An hour. Maybe more." The biological walls shifted around them, a gentle ripple like a sigh. Heat radiated from the embedded tissues, and the air grew heavier. "Do all human tools get stuck this easily?" Rillian asked, a playful tilt in his voice now. Reese gave him a long, measured look. "Only when the hole is unusually tight." That earned a chuckle from the prince, light and unexpected. It broke the tension just enough for Reese to breathe again. He sat back slightly, only to realize it pressed his shoulder against Rillian's chest. There was no space here, none at all. The prince's skin was warm, subtly luminous with faint swirls of amethyst light under his collarbone. And then, without meaning to, Reese brushed his hand against Rillian's. It was like touching a live wire. A jolt ran up his arm, not painful, intimate. Rillian gasped and recoiled slightly, eyes wide. "What was that?" Reese asked. "You're feeling what I feel," Rillian said hoarsely. "My people are empathic, but touch makes it stronger. When you touched me, I felt your frustration. And something else." Reese's breath caught. "Don't." Rillian tilted his head. "Why not?" "Because you'll read me too clearly. That's not fair." "I want to." That landed hard between them. Reese looked away, heart hammering. "You miss someone," Rillian said gently. "A lover?" Reese nodded. "Used to be. Back on Earth. She didn't want me to go. Thought I was choosing the stars over her." "Were you?" "No. I was choosing freedom. I didn't know I'd miss her every damn day." The ship groaned again, a reminder that time was ticking. "I don't want to go back to Zyna," Rillian said abruptly. "My family has arranged a bonding ceremony. I'm to be linked with someone I've never met. For politics. Power. Why are you telling me this?" "Because when you touched me, I didn't feel power. I felt warmth. And longing." A pause. "And it felt good." Reese shifted uncomfortably, the heat rising between them now something far more dangerous than a plasma leak. They sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the ship pulsing softly around them, almost like a heartbeat. "I can't fix the tool right now," Reese murmured. "But I can stabilize the surrounding pressure nodes. If I redistribute the charge through my body, it might buy us time." "That's dangerous." "Yeah. But so is suffocating in a dead conduit." Rillian reached for his hand. "Let me help." Rhys hesitated, then nodded. Their fingers touched intentionally this time, and the reaction was instant. A shimmer of light arced between their palms, a psychic echo that rippled through both of them. Rillian's breath hitched. "You're holding back again. It's not safe to feel everything in a place like this," Rhys said quietly. "But with you, it's hard not to." "I want you to feel me," Rillian said. The moment stretched. The walls dimmed to a warm glow, as though the ship sensed the shift. Rhys leaned forward just slightly. "You sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." They didn't kiss, not yet. But the space between them hummed with unspoken promises, and neither pulled away. Then, without warning, the ship jolted. The tools sparked, and the lights flickered. "Hold on," Rhys growled, anchoring himself and pushing down against the pressure nodes. Rillian's hand gripped his tighter. "I'm with you." The surge passed. The tool hissed, then clicked. Rhys blinked. "It's loosening." The spanner shifted free, falling into his hand like it had never been stuck. He looked at Rillian, breathless. "You did something." "No," Rillian said with a soft smile. "We did." Rhys opened his mouth to reply, but then a sound echoed down the corridor. Footsteps. Heavy. Purposeful. Someone was on the ship with them. And they weren't supposed to be. The footsteps echoed again, closer now. Not the quiet tap of a technician or the soft glide of a medbot. This was deliberate. Heavy. Meant to be heard. Rhys's body stiffened instinctively, the plasma spanner still warm in his hand. Rillian didn't move, his glowing eyes locked on the far end of the conduit chamber. "Your ship should be locked down," Rhys whispered. "Nobody gets on board without your authority, right?" "I didn't authorize anyone," Rillian said, voice low. "Except you." They stared at each other, the intensity from just moments ago twisting into something sharper. Fear didn't erase the tension between them, it only carved it deeper, made it personal. Rhys clicked the tool into standby mode and clipped it to his belt. "We need to move." Quietly. They slid from the conduit chamber into the main access hallway, their boots silent against the organic floor. The Devourer's walls seemed to pulse with unease, like the ship itself sensed the violation. The lights along the spine flickered a soft blue, a low alert in Zinari language. Rillian led the way, guiding them down a narrow path through the heart of the ship. He didn't speak. Neither did Rhys. There was no need. They could both feel it, something was wrong. It wasn't until they reached the secondary junction that Rhys spotted it. A set of faint, smeared prints on the translucent wall. Not just one set, two. One large. One smaller. Both headed toward the starboard engineering bay. "Looks like they came through here," Rhys murmured. "And recently." Rillian pressed his palm to the wall. The surface shimmered, revealing an overlay of thermal signatures. A trail of residual heat lingered, fresh within the last 20 minutes. But more than that, Rhys caught a flicker of something else in Rillian's expression. A sudden, subtle twitch in his jaw. "You know who it might be," Rhys said carefully. "I suspect," Rillian whispered. "But I pray I'm wrong." The tension between them deepened. Not the intimate heat of before, but the fragile bond of two people thrown together in something bigger than lust, bigger than politics. Something real. Rhys leaned in. "Tell me." Rillian hesitated. Then, Vexa Rune. Rhys frowned. "The name means nothing to me. She's a noble. High rank. Was my father's first choice for the royal bond. When I refused, she changed. Changed how? Calculated. Cold. She's dangerous, Rhys. And if she's on board, she didn't come to talk." Rhys glanced at the dark corridor ahead. "Then we'd better keep moving." But as they turned, Rillian paused. "Before we go, I need to know something." "What?" "Why did you pull your hand away when you felt me in the conduit?" Rhys looked away. "Because it scared me." "Why?" "Because I haven't let anyone in like that in years. Because it wasn't just you feeling me, Rillian. I felt you too." The prince stepped closer. "And what did you feel?" "Loneliness. Longing. And desire." Rillian's eyes shimmered in the low light. "Then you understand. I don't want a throne without meaning. I want something real. Someone who sees me. Rhys took a breath. I see you. And for a moment, even with danger humming all around them, they simply stood in it, together. Two souls, no longer hiding. Then the ship jolted. They both staggered, grabbing for the wall. Sirens howled suddenly, not the soft warning tones from before, but sharp blasts of high alert. Engineering Bay, Rillian said grimly. She's sabotaging the core. They ran. The corridors flashed red. Organic doors peeled open at Rillian's command, the ship obeying its prince even in distress. At last they burst into the bay. The core was a living orb, suspended in a web of crystalline arteries. It pulsed with unstable energy now, sickly green veins threading through what should have been silver-blue light. And standing before it, fingers on a control node, was Vexa Rune. Tall, regal, and in full ceremonial garb, she turned with a slow, venomous smile. Well, she purred. You brought your pet. Rillian stepped forward. You're committing treason. No, she said. I'm preserving the Empire. You were never meant to rule, Rillian. You were meant to comply. And you've let this thing corrupt you. Rhys stood his ground. Funny. You look like the one tampering with a royal ship's life support. She ignored him. You had one task. Secure the bond. Solidify the alliance. Instead, you chase childish fantasies with a human drifter who sticks tools in places they don't belong. Rhys smirked. Worked out fine, actually. The ship growled beneath them, a shudder running through its spine. Back away from the core, Rillian ordered. Now. But Vexa's fingers moved faster. Her wrist flicked, and suddenly a force pulse knocked them both back. Rhys crashed into the bulkhead, grunting, while Rillian collapsed beside him. She's overloading it, Rhys coughed. If the core ruptures. I know, Rillian gasped. We'll die. All of us. The force pulse faded. Vexa returned her attention to the console, unaware that Rhys had drawn a mini-shock spike from his belt. He looked to Rillian. And Rillian, reading his thoughts like an open book, gave the slightest nod. Rhys rolled, sprang, and flung the spike. It hit the console edge with a crack of light, sending sparks flying. Vexa shrieked and stumbled back, shielding her eyes. Rillian was on her in a heartbeat, disabling her with a pressure lock that dropped her to the ground. Alarms ceased. The core stabilized, light returning to its calm blue shimmer. Rhys walked over slowly, catching his breath. That was close. Rillian helped him to his feet. Too close. Vexa groaned on the ground. You'll regret this, both of you. The Empire won't allow. Rillian silenced her with a glance. The Empire isn't here. I am. And I choose him. She looked from prince to mechanic and laughed bitterly. Then may the stars have mercy on you both. Security drones arrived moments later, summoned by Rillian's neural command. They took her without protest. And then, once she was gone, the bay was quiet. The silence was thick again. But this time, it held something new. You said you choose me, Rhys said softly. I did, Rillian replied. And I meant it. But what happens now? The prince stepped closer, pressing their foreheads together. Now, we see what happens when a tool finally fits the right hands. Their lips met at last, soft, warm, and full of a promise that neither royalty nor gravity could break. Outside the ship, the nebula flared like a slow sunrise. And inside, the devourer purred. Outside the viewport, the nebula pressed in violent pinks, swirling greens, and storms of plasma crackling just beyond the shielding. The devourer was drifting. Aimless. Suspended at the edge of the forbidden bloom, a place where even light distorted and laws of physics bent like dreams. Inside the star-yacht, time pulsed slowly. Rhys lay half-suspended in the antigrave recovery pod, eyes closed, heartbeat sinking to the ship's rhythm. Not sleep. Not unconsciousness. Just stillness wrapped in weightless warmth and the fading echo of Rillian's lips. He should have felt afraid. They were adrift, Vexa was gone but not defeated, and the damage to the ship's core had left navigation crippled. But none of that mattered more than what he felt now, Rillian's hand wrapped tightly in his. I was afraid you wouldn't wake, the prince said quietly. Rhys smiled without opening his eyes. Didn't want to miss the view. Rillian chuckled. We're still in the nebula. But we're stable. Rhys opened his eyes. The soft bioluminescent glow of the chamber lit Rillian's features in radiant swirls. Not alien. Not strange. Just beautiful. You stayed with me, Rhys whispered. Of course. Even though the whole Empire's probably screaming in your ear. Rillian leaned closer. Let them scream. The antigrave field faded. Rhys sat up slowly, wincing as static prickled across his arms. Rillian's hand remained on his back, grounding him. The damage to the navigation array is worse than I thought, Rhys said. We need manual recalibration from the outer sensor wing. And it's on the hull. In the nebula. Rhys nodded. Radiation's thin at the edge, but we've only got a short window before it folds inward again. I'll come with you. No, Rhys said. You've already risked enough. Rillian didn't argue. He simply leaned in, brushing his fingers along Rhys's jaw. Then wear this. He pulled a crystalline pendant from around his neck, gleaming violet, its surface alive with internal constellations. Royal shield gem, Rillian explained. Tuned to my frequency. It'll reinforce your suit. And, if you're in danger, I'll feel it. Rhys hesitated. Then accepted it. A few minutes later, suited and sealed, Rhys stepped onto the hull. The void was chaos, color, heat, and silence, a quiet scream of light that rippled across the yacht's organic plating. The Devourer pulsed beneath his boots like a heart. Every step was slow. Deliberate. The sensor wing extended like a spine from the yacht's dorsal shell, and at its end sat the flux recalibrator. Rhys moved with practiced care, eyes on the readout. He could hear Rillian in his ear through the neural link. I see you, Rillian's voice said, steady. You always do, Rhys replied, his breath frosting against the inside of his visor. The recalibrator was corroded, partially fused from Vex's sabotage. Rhys wedged his boots into the stabilizers and pulled out a fresh spike. As he began repairs, he felt it. A pulse. Not from the ship, from the nebula. What was that? He asked aloud. I felt it too, Rillian replied. It's like something woke up. The light around him dimmed subtly, then rapidly. Tendrils of plasma coiled toward the ship from all directions, drawn to the energy of the royal yacht. Rhys cursed. The nebula's folding. It's creating a pressure well. Come back inside, now. Not yet. I'm 2 seconds from realignment. A blast of light surged across the hull, throwing Rhys from the wing. He tumbled, suit alarms blaring. The shield crystal flared at his chest. Rhys. Rillian's voice cracked in his ear. I'm okay, Rhys said through clenched teeth. Spanner's gone. I'm floating. I'm coming out there. No. Stay inside. If you come out, the ship loses its psychic anchor. She'll tear apart. Then how do I get you back? Rhys looked around. The Devourer's hull undulated beneath him, reacting like skin. It felt him. Tell her to reach for me, he said. She listens to you. Rillian's voice slowed. Focused. Then, Devourer, bring him home. The ship obeyed. A coil of living muscle extended, a serpentine appendage of biosteel and light. It twisted toward Rhys, unfurling like a hand. Rhys grabbed hold. The pull was gentle, strong, magnetic. Within moments, he was pressed against the hull again, the tendril sealing around him. The world flashed, and he was inside. Back in Rillian's arms. They collapsed together, panting. You idiot, Rillian whispered. You almost died. I told you. You're stuck with me. Is that a mechanic's way of proposing? Rhys blinked. Was that a royal way of accepting? They laughed, breaths mingling, foreheads pressed together. But the moment didn't last. The ship's lights pulsed yellow. A new alarm. Now what? Rhys groaned. Rillian's eyes darkened. We're not alone. What? I thought she was gone, but the ship just detected an energy signature. Not Vexa. Something else. It's coming from the core. They raced toward the chamber again. The orb glowed wildly now, not unstable, but aware. Reacting. Projecting something. Inside the light, a form was taking shape. Not Vexer. Not a person. A message. A memory. A Zinari noble, the Devourer's creator, long dead, speaking in glowing glyphs. Rillian translated. Only a bonded pair can command the Devourer's true power. Rhys stared at the message, blinking. What does it mean? It means, we've triggered something ancient, Rillian said. Something meant to stay dormant unless two hearts became one. The light wrapped around them. Warm. Steady. Then, without warning, a surge of white flooded the room. Rhys gasped. He saw a future, a planet blooming under Zinari-Human alliance. A bridge. A throne room. And himself standing at Rillian's side. Then it vanished. They stood in the quiet again. Rhys turned slowly. Did you see? Yes, Rillian said. I saw everything. Their fingers entwined. Not because of danger. Not because of fear. But because nothing else made sense anymore. Outside, the nebula parted. A path. A way forward. And the Devourer moved once more. The Devourer moved like it had been waiting centuries to stretch its wings. With the nebula parting before them, it surged forward alive, aware, and reborn. Rhys stood on the forward bridge beside Rillian, eyes locked on the pulsing path of light unraveling through the stars. Neither of them spoke. There was too much to say, and too much that didn't need words. The core had awakened something ancient, something forgotten, a protocol hidden deep within the organic heart of the ship. Now, it followed only one voice. Not Rillian's. Not Rhys's. Theirs. A shared resonance, born from contact, sealed in the tension of a stolen kiss, strengthened by sacrifice. Still, the calm didn't last. An urgent pulse echoed through the ship's nervous system, a security alert. Unauthorized communications. A signal burst from within the ship. Rillian turned toward the console. She's still here. Rhys frowned. Vexer? No. Not physically. But she left something. A trigger. A final play. He brought up the interface, and there it was, a parasite code buried inside the navigation controls. Set to activate the moment the ship passed beyond the nebula's event horizon. The ship would lock course straight into a solar flare. She wanted us to survive the sabotage, Rillian said, jaw tightening. Only to burn afterward. I can isolate it, Rhys said, already diving into the system. But I need time. 10, maybe 15 minutes. You've got 8. That's how long until we hit the flare radius. Rillian stayed close as Rhys worked, fingers moving fast over the alien circuitry, beads of sweat building on his brow. The Devourer responded like a lover, warm, sensitive, eager to please but temperamental under pressure. Why me? Rhys asked suddenly. Rillian looked over. What? You could have had anyone. Someone from Zyna. Someone powerful. Someone who didn't carry a broken heart into deep space. Rillian smiled faintly. That's exactly why. Because you did carry it. And you never let it turn you bitter. You still loved. You still gave. Even when it hurt. Rhys's hands slowed. And then stopped. The final command line appeared. He smiled. Got it. He entered the override key, purging Vex's trap. The ship's path realigned instantly, the solar flare curve corrected with a single, elegant shift. The stars ahead widened. Clear. Safe. They both let out breaths they didn't know they were holding. And then, behind them, a soft chime. The communication panel blinked. An incoming message from the Zinari High Command. Rillian hesitated. You don't have to answer it, Rhys said. We can keep running. I'm not running anymore. Rillian touched the console. A hologram bloomed, a circle of elders, pale eyes, regal robes. Prince Rillian, the lead voice said. We detected the ship's deviation. Explain. I was attacked, Rillian said calmly. By Vexer Rune. Shock spread through the council. She attempted to seize the Devourer. She failed. She is now in custody, awaiting trial. You took a human aboard, one of them said. This contradicts the royal directive. Rillian didn't blink. This human saved my life. Saved this ship. And saved me from a fate I never chose. Another elder leaned in. Are you declaring a bond? I am. Gasps. Protests. Then silence. Rillian raised his chin. Under Zinari law, the devourer belongs to the heart-bonded. We are two minds, one command. From now on, our futures are shared. The elders faded from the screen without reply. Rhys blinked. Was that wise? No, Rillian said with a crooked smile. But it was right. They stood on the bridge as silence returned, broken only by the ship's heartbeat. So what now? Rhys asked. We return to Zyna. We show them what a real bond looks like. They're going to hate me. They'll fear you first, Rillian said. Then they'll respect you. Because you stood beside me when it mattered. Rhys stepped closer. You really think this us can survive a throne room full of centuries-old prejudice and politics? Rillian's hand found his. We didn't survive Nebula Fire and a psychotic ex-noble for nothing. Rhys laughed softly. That spanner never did fit again, by the way. Rillian leaned in, lips brushing his ear. That's because it wasn't made for just any hole. Rhys turned red. You're lucky we're alone. Are we? The ship flickered softly around them in amusement. Then came the coronation. Not with crowds or parades, not with fanfare or trumpets. Just two figures, one mechanic, one prince standing at the threshold of a new world. Zyna welcomed them with suspicion, then with awe. News of Vex's betrayal spread like solar fire. The Devourer's living systems recognized Rhys as a bonded controller, and no one could deny the will of the ship. Weeks passed. Then months. Rhys stood at the center of the celestial chamber, dressed not in finery but in his worn black uniform, the same one he'd nearly died in. His spanner hung from his hip, a relic, now more symbolic than functional. Rillian approached from the high steps, his ceremonial robes flowing like starlight, the royal crest at his throat. They met in the middle. Before thousands. Before the ancestors. Before the stars. And when they touched, forehead to forehead, heart to heart, the devourer pulsed once in the sky above. Not red. Not blue. But violet and gold, entwined. A new constellation was born that day. A mechanic's promise. A prince's vow. And the end of loneliness for them both. Later that night, far from the crowd, Rhys stood on the deck of their shared quarters, watching the galaxy curve out before him. Rillian wrapped his arms around his waist from behind. Home, Rillian whispered. Rhys nodded. Yeah. A moment passed. Then Rillian reached into his pocket and pulled something out. Rhys blinked. It was the old plasma spanner. But now, reshaped. Modified. Engraved along its edge were the Zinari glyphs for bonded heart, shared fire. Rillian handed it to him. No more stuck tools, he whispered. Rhys turned, kissed him slowly, deeply, and the ship purred, sailing silently forward, two hearts guiding her through the stars. Forever.